So today we're talking about 1966 film by John Frankenheimer called Seconds. It's a sci-fi, kind of horror, kind of thriller, kind of romance, kind of just like character study. Is that enough genres for you? But no, it's great. It's just so awesome. It holds up really, really well. John Frankenheimer, I think his most notable directorial outing. I didn't know Seconds was this popular. I mean, it was just recommended to me last week. But I mean, I've heard of Ronin with Mr. Robert De Niro there before. I've heard of The Manchurian Candidate. I feel like that's the one I've heard of the most out of all these. The Island of Dr. Moreau, because I've read the book. Good stuff. French Connection 2. Didn't even know there was a second. But alas, John Frankenheimer, great director. And Seconds, if you didn't get it from the trailer here, Seconds is not referring to seconds in a minute, not that. It is not referring to second meal. No. It is referring to a second chance at life, to be reborn again. So a second is somebody who has maybe not so willingly been a part of this company's program where they take your being, your brain, your soul, and they put it into somebody else's body. They stage the death of your old self with your old body. And so you can start anew. You can begin again. And so that is what happens to our protagonist, initially played by John Randolph here. He plays, what was that? It wasn't Alexander Hamilton. Wait. Okay. He plays Arthur Hamilton, not Alexander. Yeah, so we start off the movie. Okay, you know what? First, spoiler-free thoughts, if anybody here cares about spoilers. We start off the movie with this man, John Randolph. You know, he's going about his life, but then he's hearing about this, like, he's getting these weird signs, and he's hearing about this society. And you can tell his life is a bit devoid of emotion. He's going about his job. He kind of, like, he goes home with his wife, and they kind of just, like, don't connect very well. And so he seems to be the prime candidate to become a second. And just overall, general, broad idea of the story. I mean, the concept is phenomenal. For 1966, I think that it's another classic case of, if I'm linking it to like Westworld, where it's a classic sci-fi concept that doesn't go insanely, like, intentionally go insanely in depth onto like the morals of everything, onto like just really nitpicking like all of the avenues that they could go down, kind of like the new Westworld. It's so philosophical. I mean, I think this movie is definitely very thoughtful and everything, but I think that the story, the way it reveals itself, is very like, it's very straightforward, and they still tell you a lot of things up front without the mystery. But because they do that, it kind of lets you focus more on the character a little more, because it's not, when going into it, I thought maybe it would be like, you know, Christopher Nolan, you have this very cool science fiction concept, and then, you know, it just like you pull that to its extremes just as much as you can. But for this one, I feel like they had the concept, they did the concept pretty early on, and then it's more about him just navigating through his life and just like the emotional toll that it takes on him, and just, it is more of an inner character journey than an outer sci-fi extravaganza, and I respect that a lot. I think that's great. I like it both ways. Personally, you know, I love me my Christopher Nolan. Tenet doesn't make any sense. Love that. But no, I think yeah, the inwardness of it, and kind of just like it does tell you what's going on, and there isn't really like too much mystery. There's like one thing at the end that, you know, it gets revealed, but like still, I think that it just does a good job for what it wants to be in this character study. 1966 has that vibe, and the camera work is so good. It is black and white. The camera work, these like POVs, I think it's really well represented in this poster here. There's a lot of like these distorted POVs, especially the very first scene. The very first scene is literally just Arthur Hamilton. He's walking around a train station, and we have these like weird POVs that it kind of feels like it's over a guy's shoulder following him, but it kind of feels like the camera's like attached to it. Like, it feels like the motion is just like with him, and it's like, it's very like kind of shaky as it's following them. And then we have like these close-ups of him just walking through this train station. It kind of seems like he's like dazed and he's like dizzy or drunk or something, and it kind of just shows you right at the beginning that, you know, his life is just, you know, bit of a mess. He's just going about, but also it just make it, it's very tense for no reason. And it's like literally just the camera work there made that scene tense of him walking in a train station, maybe being followed, tense. And it just works so well. And those types of shots come up throughout the movie a lot. I believe it was nominated for an Academy Award for cinematography as well. Very cool, very cool. Yeah, so I think the filmmaking here is just kind of crazy. Cinematography, phenomenal. The sets were also pretty cool. Yeah, I think filmmaking wise, there's just some sequences also like that grape stomping sequence outdoors. The way that's edited together is just absolutely insane. Made it feel like it was going on for hours, but it was probably like 5 minutes. And again, I think they really, really nailed just like the feeling that they're trying to give, getting that through with the camera work and the editing. It's just like a masterclass in that. And so, okay, actually going into the story a bit more and just kind of like, that's what I like talking about these sci-fi movies. So we have our man, Arthur Hamilton, going about his life, and then somebody gives him an address just on a piece of paper, and he takes it like, oh, okay, I just want to go to this address, fine. He gets a phone call from Charlie, his best friend, his long lost best, hasn't talked to him in a while. And he's like, you got the address? You got to go there. You got no questions. And he just goes. He's very willing, even though he doesn't even know what's going on. Then he gets put in this truck. He goes to this place. Then he's in this office building. He's waiting for hours. And then he drinks this tea that they offer him. And he got drugged. And then he wakes up and he's still there. And he's like, oh, what the heck? What's going on here? Tries to figure it out. And then they sit him down and they talk to him. And they're like, all right, we're doing this procedure on you. And he's like, what? Proceed? I have to sign here? What's going on? And then they show him a video of himself, like, throwing himself onto a woman. And they influenced him to do that while they drugged him and then videotaped it. And they're using this as blackmail to make sure that he goes through with it. They're like, if you don't go through with this procedure, we're going to show everybody this video. And it's like, that was like just very big leap. Very big leap. Maybe not needed. But he's going to this procedure. What's going on? He wakes up. He has these bandages all over his face. And boom, he's born again. He is this man, Rock Hudson, who, history behind Rock Hudson, I looked him up a bit. He was a big star. He was a star. He was a leading man. All That Heaven Allows, big movie. Giant was pretty big movie. Written in the Wind, can't say I've heard of that one really. But like he was a big lead-in man, and he was absolutely phenomenal. This is like near the tail end of his career. It looks like the 50s were kind of like his golden age there. But he also was one of the first like very famous, notable superstars to openly say that he was diagnosed with AIDS. And the history behind him was very interesting, and that is the illness that he was killed by. But very interesting read up on him. And he was absolutely phenomenal. I see why he was a star. Very like Elvis-like. But yeah, so we now following this man around, Rock Hudson. What's his name now? They changed his name, and he has to remember that his name is now Tony Wilson. Tony Wilson. Change it from Arthur Hamilton to Tony. I don't think he got a say in his name, unfortunately, because he could have chosen a better name. Okay, alas. Okay, so then they're like, oh, what did you always want to do? And he's like, oh, I wanted to be a painter. And so they moved into like this oceanside house, and he becomes a painter. And they have this dude there, John, legend, love him. And he's just like his butler. He's like, the company provides John just to help you with this transition to your new life. And so he's just painting. He's just hanging out. John's like serving him his dinner. He's living it up. He's just getting used to everything. And then he meets on the beach a woman named Nora, who is very free-spirited. And they go out to this very cult-esque, midsummer-esque, wine-stomping parade full of naked people. Very orgy-esque. There was no activities like that going on, but there were just a lot of naked people stomping on grapes. And he was like, whoa, this is crazy. What's going on? We have to leave, Nora. But then he gets thrown into the vat of mushed up grapes. And he's like, yeah, I like this now. It was very sudden. Very sudden. But also, I was saying earlier, it was a great scene. It was like very like dizzying drunkenness done very well. And I was like very uncomfortable watching it, like in the good way. Because because it's like, okay, what is he gonna do? What is he gonna like ruin this whole thing? Are these people? I don't know if they can be trusted. Are they gonna like hurt him after this? But then, so it's kind of like just him. It seems like what I was trying to say is him just getting more comfortable in his new body, in his new life, his new free spirit, artistic. He's a painter after all, instead of being a businessman. And then so he gets into it with Nora. They're in a relationship. And then we get to, he has like a party at his house and he gets really drunk. And then when he's really drunk, he says a bunch of stuff. And his performance, absolutely phenomenal in these drunk scenes. And again, the way the drunk scenes are filmed, absolutely phenomenal. And he's just drinking. He's having a good time. He says, his go-to line was like, oh, I'm a Harvard alumni. Or not anymore, though. And then everybody laughs like, what do you mean not anymore? You can't not be an alumni anymore. He's like, I was a Harvard alumni, but not anymore. Because he lives another life. And so it is revealed, big reveal, John brings him aside with a bunch of other dudes. They tie him down. They're like, everybody here knows you're a second, that you're living a new life. And this is kind of just like a test. Like Nora, she doesn't actually love you. She is also in on this. She knows. We're testing you. And he's like, I've ruined everything. I want a new life again. And so he's like, he goes back to the, big plot point here that I'm actually missing here. He's like, shoot, I've ruined everything. Darn. Then he goes back to his old house and talks to his old wife, which honestly, best scene in the movie. Like, just like the subtext of everything going on. It's a dude who is married to his wife, intentionally stages his own death, puts his brain in another body, comes back to the wife and talks to him about his old self. And then she's just like roasting him. She's like, he always seemed like he had dreams, but then never achieved them. I felt like he's been like not here for 10 years at this point, actually. You know, he was so distant. I never know what he was thinking. He's just like, tell me more, please. Tell me more. Okay. I'm making a joke of it, but it was actually a phenomenal scene. It was actually a phenomenal scene. Then he leaves and he's like, oh shoot, I'm all depressed now. And he goes back to this office and he's like, give me another new life. You know, let's just do it again. Let's do a redo. This time I've learned stuff. I won't mess it up. But then there's this big room and they're like, oh, you're in the wait list with all these dudes now who also want a second. Wouldn't that be a third then? A third? So these are the seconds, and then there's another layer, there's a third. But, big reveal again. We realize that he gets carted away again. In this very scene here, I guess you can kind of see it more in the poster. They gag him up, tie him down. They read his last will. And he's going out the door, if you know what I'm saying. He is going to be killed and that body used as a second again. It's a business after all. Going in this, he just became a part of the business. His body was just a part of the business to begin with. It was done very well. I really did enjoy it. It's the kind of sci-fi that it's like, it's very like low key. It's not like a visual big space epic thing, but it's very thoughtful. It is very character driven, which is very cool as well. And I very much enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 stars here. But yes, I would recommend it. Very fun.